Just a second. Let's talk about Ephraim and DOT, written by Anthony Marinville and Chris Silvestri, directed by Michael Giacchino. Okay. Ephraim, a humble tardigrade,
music.
is flying through the mycelial network when an unexpected encounter takes her on a bewildering adventure through space. Again, good and bad. I thought the animation style that they used for this episode, I thought this episode was beautiful. It's I like the animation style that they use, and it's actually two different styles of animation, because when you're looking at Ephraim and DOT, you've got one style, and then when you're seeing the Star Trek characters, like when they see Khan through the window and stuff, it's a completely different animation style, more realistic, you know.
It's very reminiscent of heavy metal.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which segment of heavy metal?
It was
not those.
The ones with the boobies. But when they showed the Enterprise, I thought the Enterprise looked really, really good. I thought it was funny. It's kind of like a Tom and Jerry cartoon, and I can get on board with that. I can get on board with Tom and Jerry and Star Trek, but two things that got me at the beginning. First of all, like what Chris was saying just a second ago reminded me. The narrator calls the tardigrade a gentle creature. We saw a tardigrade basically tear someone in half. And didn't the tardigrade kill everybody on the other ship, on the Discovery's sister ship?
No,
that was
Spore Drive did that.
That was the intersection between our reality and the Spore Drive reality.
But there was a tardigrade on the ship that was trying to kill. Yeah, but the tardigrade on the ship was trying to kill them.
Okay, stop.
The fact that an animal kills you and trying to escape doesn't make it not a gentle creature.
Exactly.
It means that it wants to escape and it's willing to kill you to do it.
a well-fed great white shark in its natural environment, not being threatened, is a docile creature.
That's a lot of specific.
I wouldn't call it a gentle creature. You're not going to rub it on the belly and pet it behind its ear.
A person who is a nice person, if you chain them to your engine and tell them to make it go.
As much as I it
hurt them.
As much as I love Discovery, and I do, there were a lot of problems with season 1. And one of my biggest problems with season 1 was they never explained where the tardigrade came from, how it became the armored murder beast it became, and any of that stuff, which I granted don't need all of the I's dotted and T's crossed. That's one of the things I loved about TNG was a lot of the endings of TNG were like either, all right, we lost, we're gone, or we're not going to get an explanation. But I think something as big as the tardigrade, not just big size-wise, but, and size-wise too. Tardigrades are teeny little microscopic things in our universe. I kind of wanted some sort of explanation for where Ripper came from and why it was there. And we never got that. And I didn't need it. I'm good. So
because it's outer space, so space.
Yeah.
Well, another thing is the fact that when we first see the Enterprise, and we can hear that big swell of Star Trek music come up and everything, the first thing that the Enterprise does is crash into an asteroid with the deflector dish.
Well, it was sort of the edge of the.
Isn't that what the deflector dish is supposed to do? Is deflect things?
Yeah.
I watched that a couple of times just to see if they had like a little force field generated around it. It's like, no, just broke it in half.
Yeah, just smash it.
What's the what is it? Duranium the hull?
Yes.
What do they call it? Yeah, duranium. So I can't believe I pulled that out of my butt. But I don't think a little asteroid's going to hurt it. If an asteroid is going to hurt the hull of the Enterprise, that ship would have been destroyed a long time ago.
So it's equivalent of a bug on the windshield.
Yeah. The deflector is for use at like warp speed and high impulse, not when they're just kind of coasting through a system like that.
Well, so the whole thing is that this tardigrade is looking for a place to lay her eggs, and she goes into the Enterprise and lays her eggs in the
engine.
In the engine. because it's a warm place. And the narrator says that, you know, it can take years for the eggs to hatch. Well, the Enterprise has one of those little DOT robots that we saw in Discovery at the end of season 2, and he kind of, you know, kicks her out. So the eggs are on the ship and she's not. So the Enterprise goes to warp. So does the tardigrade, and follows the Enterprise through all of its adventures. So you're seeing the Green Hand, and you're seeing Abraham Lincoln in space, and you see the
Khan.
we saw Khan at the beginning, but you
Tholian Web.
That this tardigrade is moving through time and space, and kind of experiencing this stuff out of order, because we saw the stuff with Khan and we saw the stuff with the Naked Time, but they were swapped because the Naked Time takes place before Space Heat.
Oh, wait. Naked Time? Oh, and yeah, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we saw that. We saw that after the Space Heat thing, even though in reality, that takes place before Space Heat.
Well, I was going to actually go to my Star Trek concordance and see what the star dates were on those, because even though the airing date might have been one, you know, that Space Heat came after Naked Time, I wonder what the star dates are. We could probably look that up, because they weren't really keeping star dates back then very closely. They were just making them up. Yeah. So I'm thinking that if Naked Time has a set of 4 numerals, random numerals that are lower than the random numerals for space, or the other way around, you know, it's plausible. I don't know.
What's not plausible? You have already put more thought into this episode.
What's not plausible is we see the Enterprise get destroyed from Star Trek 3, but we see the Enterprise A get destroyed.
You know, Sean, I missed that, and I would have happily missed that until you posted that goddamn picture that made me see it.
Once we see the A, so what they were supposed to show us was that it was the refit Enterprise. But they put the A on there, and every time you saw the Enterprise after that, it had the A. So this tardigrade lays its eggs in the Enterprise, but gets its eggs back from the Enterprise A.
Can I let me just point to a tweet by Michael Giacchino. It was a mistake. It got by them. He apologized. It was not an intentional change. It was just a dumb mistake on their part.
I know, but it's a dumb mistake that they had to have watched this thing 500 times before it aired.
No, not necessarily.
I saw it.
That's the way animation. Okay, the way animation works is you write the script, you send it to a place in Korea where they do the animation, and then if you're lucky, you get the final product done in time to review it quickly before it has to air. Something like that. And you know, they may not have caught it. Here comes the concordance.
That's a big miss.
It is for us, but I mean, it was a wonderful, silly romp through Star Trek history with a couple of silly cartoon characters. When I first realized they were doing the Khan scene in sickbay. Now, first of all, there's no goddamn window to space in sickbay if you want to get really picky. So there's no way for the tardigrade to get into the engines. There's no freaking DOT on the Enterprise. I don't know where they came up with those robots from, but they weren't there. So
there
are so many things to nitpick about this episode, but that's not the point of the episode. It was fan service to the point of needing a towel when it was done, and I loved it.
What I loved especially was the fact that the warp core was horizontal. It was a TOS warp core. It wasn't that nonsense that we saw in the First Duty, or whatever the hell that dumb one was, with Pike as a prisoner. When they completely reimagined main engineering on the Enterprise to look nothing like main engineering on the Enterprise.
I was fine with everything. I mean, when she was flying through and she started seeing the Green Hand and Abraham Lincoln and all that kind of stuff, even though some of it was out of order, I was like, this is pretty. I like this, you know. And then when I saw the Enterprise A get destroyed, I was like, what?
This far, no farther.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah, I saw you.
What I have here.
Bookshelf.
I got my concordance. Naked
Come
time.
on. This is
Star
like
date.
Star Trek, and you got it wrong.
1704.2. And let's see, Space Seed. Come on, Joe.
Also, while he's looking that up, Ephraim and Dot are kind of an item now because Dot gave birth to her babies.
Yeah, I'm wrong.
She carried her babies until they hatched. Or he. I call Dot a he. I don't know if he's a he.
Right? Okay. It's a robot.
Space Seed is 3141.9. So there goes my theory out of the water.
As I previously said, I am not the most steeped in the Star Trek lore. So this episode was not for me. This episode was for you guys.
Did you at least find it funny? Because I found it really funny.
I thought it was fine.
Oh, yeah.
Which is surprising since I'm probably the biggest Looney Tune. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to impugn anyone's Looney Tune love on the show. But it was fine. Yes, it was absolutely, a big old bucket of fan service. And it wasn't for the casual fan. I mean, I was like, oh, yeah, that's that thing from that thing. And, oh, right, that's that other thing. I remember I remember hearing something about Abraham Lincoln. I remember that.
Hey, but
John. I know. I'm on a Star Trek show. Is that what you're about to say?
Well, I mean, if you watched that and you had never seen the original series, you would kind of say, "Man, that's kind of weird. I need to go back and watch."
No,
that.
I mean, I obviously
Abraham Lincoln.
I mean, I got what it was. I understood why it was there, and it's not like they really interacted. It was like, "Hey, remember that thing? Remember that thing? Remember that thing?" So I mean, I got enough of it, I guess, but I didn't get all the feels from seeing it go through these. And just aside, it's kind of like French fry as a ketchup delivery system. This plot of the tardigrade and the robot were just like a cool shot Star Trek fan delivery system. So again, it was fine, but it wasn't made for me. But I wasn't clear on how big the tardigrade and the robot were supposed to be.
Well, we know how big the robots are because we've seen them before. We saw them at the end of Discovery Season 2. They were the little robots during the big battle in the last episode. They came out to kind of fix stuff.
Oh.
And they're not very big. I would say probably about maybe the size of this desk that I'm sitting at.
1.5 meters tall, based on the laundry.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I figured. Yeah, based on the shirts, but like part of the
they seem smaller to me. Yeah, they can.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes they seem like they were like a few inches tall. Sometimes they seem, but then they're outside the ship. And they're like the size of window.
Well, they're blowing up the Enterprise A. They're not really paying attention to details.
I understand. I'm just saying it's one of the things that added to
the only thing that I can reconcile that is that maybe since tardigrades move through time and space, maybe they experience time just kind of jumbled up.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe tardigrades
I was fine with all that.
Experience time differently. Yeah.
Sure. Why not?